Right now, as you are listening to this, your body is quietly destroying the equivalent of like 3 large chicken breasts worth of its own tissue.
Yeah, it is a slightly terrifying thought when you phrase it exactly like
I
that.
mean, it is actively tearing down your muscles, your skin, the lining of your stomach, and even your immune cells.
Yeah.
And if you don't feed it exactly what it needs today, it's just not going to have the raw materials to rebuild them.
Right. Biologically, that is entirely accurate. I mean,
Ah.
you are basically a walking demolition and reconstruction site.
And that is exactly why we are so glad you are joining us today, because usually when we think about the food on our plates, we operate under this overwhelming expectation of simple math.
Yeah, we treat it like an accounting ledger, right?
Exactly. You eat a meal, you tally up the calories, and you think of it purely as fuel in the gas tank. Like
Yeah.
you either burn it off walking around or you store it as fat.
Which, I mean, is a very comforting binary way to look at it.
Mm.
Fuel in, energy out.
Yeah.
But it completely misses the molecular reality of what actually happens after you swallow.
It really does. So our mission for this deep dive is to completely reframe how you think about every single bite of food you take.
Yes, absolutely.
We are pulling from this incredibly detailed chapter from a nutritional science text titled O6 Proteins, the Building Blocks. And we are moving far beyond the simplistic idea of food as just calories or gas in the tank.
Because when you stop seeing food solely as this invisible energy and start seeing it as literal physical material as lumber and bricks, everything about your daily habits changes.
It totally shifts your perspective. But before we get into the heavy construction materials, we need to establish a baseline.
Right, we need to talk about the fuel, just so we have a point of contrast.
Exactly. And that means briefly looking at carbohydrates, because if you don't understand the fuel, you really can't appreciate the building materials.
That makes sense. So carbohydrates are fundamentally your body's preferred quick access energy source. I mean, your brain runs almost exclusively on glucose, which is what carbs break down into.
But the source material draws this massive, critical distinction between the types of fuel you are putting into the system, right? It's not all the same.
No, not at all. It paints a picture of two biological extremes.
Okay, lay those out for us.
So on one end, you have unrefined carbohydrates.
Yeah.
We're talking about whole fruits, legumes, tubers like sweet potatoes, and, intact whole grains.
And the defining characteristic here is that they come with their natural physical structure completely intact, right?
Yeah, exactly. And more importantly, they are heavily packaged with fiber. Think of fiber as this dense, complex net holding all the energy inside.
Oh, I like that visual. A net.
Right. And because of that intact physical structure, your digestive system has to work incredibly hard to break the net apart. I mean, it literally takes hours.
Which means the glucose is released into your bloodstream as a slow, steady trickle.
Precisely. So you get sustained energy. You don't get that violent spike in blood sugar.
And no blood sugar spike means no violent spike in insulin either.
Exactly. Insulin is a hormone that essentially acts as a key, unlocking your cells so the glucose can actually get in.
So when glucose trickles in slowly, the insulin just sort of hums along at a manageable level.
Yeah, these unrefined carbs are the foundation of healthy fuel. They keep you full, and they bring along a massive payload of vitamins, minerals, and water.
Okay, but then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum, refined carbohydrates.
Right, this is your table sugar, your white bread, industrial pastries, the sugary cereal you eat in the morning.
Where the manufacturing process has basically completely stripped away the fiber.
Exactly. The structural net is just gone.
Mm.
And the biological consequence of removing that net is pure speed.
Because there's no fiber to slow things down, right?
Yeah, there is nothing to slow down the digestive enzymes. So these refined carbs dissolve and absorb in mere minutes. They just flood your bloodstream like a tsunami.
Wow, so what does the body do with that tsunami?
Well, your pancreas panics, basically. It pumps out a massive, abrupt spike of insulin to try and clear all that toxic excess sugar out of the blood as fast as possible.
And what goes up that fast has to crash, right?
Oh, it crashes hard. The massive insulin spike overcorrects, shoving all the glucose into your cells and fat stores so rapidly that an hour later, your blood sugar actually plummets below your baseline.
So that crash is what leaves you feeling exhausted, shaky, and like desperately craving another sugary snack just to bring your levels back up.
Exactly. If you rely on these heavily, you are trapping yourself on this vicious roller coaster of energy crashes. And eventually, your cells can actually stop responding to the insulin entirely.
Which is insulin resistance.
Right, exactly.
Now, I don't want anyone listening to think we're just demonizing all carbs here, because, I mean, a bowl of plain white rice by itself is going to hit your bloodstream fast, sure.
Yeah, it will.
But if I eat that same white rice with a piece of salmon, some broccoli, and maybe a drizzle of olive oil, the entire biological context changes.
It absolutely does. The fats from the salmon and the oil, plus the fiber from the broccoli, physically mix with the rice in your stomach.
So it creates a sort of traffic jam in your digestive tract.
That's a great way to put it. It slows the absorption of the rice down to a completely manageable rate.
Hmm.
So carbohydrates are not the enemy. I mean, they are the primary fuel for your nervous system.
The real takeaway is just understanding which ones serve you best and how combining them alters their impact.
Exactly.
Okay, so carbs are the fuel. They give you the quick energy to run the machine. But here is the core premise we really need to pivot to today.
The building materials.
Yes. Your body needs more than just energy to stay alive. It needs raw, tangible building materials. It needs physical stuff to repair a torn muscle fiber or to manufacture a hormone.
Or to close up a simple paper cut on your finger. I mean, you can't build a house with just electricity.
Right. The electricity keeps the lights on and runs the power tools, but to actually build the walls, you need lumber.
And that lumber is protein.
And honestly, it feels like the fitness industry has completely hijacked this concept.
Oh, totally.
Protein has been relentlessly marketed as this, like, gym bro powder in a giant plastic jug, something you only care about if you are trying to bulk up and flex in a mirror.
Yeah, but when you look at the actual biochemistry in the text, protein is the literal physical foundation of human biology. It is the material from which you are fundamentally constructed.
That is why.
I mean, if you remove water and fat from a human body, almost everything that is left over is protein.
So let's look at this invisible construction site that is your body. I mentioned it at the top of the show, but this statistic about turnover rate completely blew my mind when I first read the source material.
Ah, yes, the 300-gram daily turnover.
Yes. The data shows that your body destroys and rebuilds about 300 grams of protein every single day.
It really is a staggering amount of biological activity.
Let's put that into a real-world visual for you. 300 grams is the equivalent of taking 3 large, thick chicken breasts, breaking them down into microscopic dust, and then entirely reconstructing them inside your body.
And doing that every 24 hours. And it happens entirely in the background.
Right. You don't feel it, you don't hear a construction crew, but it is this massive, relentless metabolic engine that just never sleeps.
Exactly.
Well, wait, why? Why is it happening at such a massive scale? I mean, if I build a brick wall in my backyard, I don't have to tear it down and rebuild it every Tuesday.
No, you don't.
So what is the biological imperative driving this constant destruction?
Well, it comes down to basic maintenance in a highly hostile environment. Think about what your body is actually exposed to every day.
Okay, like what?
Your muscles are constantly experiencing micro tears.
Right.
Just from daily movement, right? Fighting gravity, carrying groceries, let alone doing actual exercise.
Right, so those damaged fibers have to be cleared out and replaced.
Exactly. And your skin, which is your primary barrier against pathogens and UV radiation, is constantly shedding dead cells. You are entirely replacing your outer layer of skin every few weeks.
Okay, so the structural stuff is taking a beating and needs replacing. That makes sense.
But the invisible processes are even more demanding. The enzymes that digest the food you eat, those are specialized proteins, and they get degraded during the digestive process.
Oh, so they have to be manufactured from scratch continuously.
Yes, and the antibodies that your immune system deploys when someone coughs on you on the subway, those are produced on demand in the millions.
And they are made entirely of protein, too.
Entirely. The red blood cells carrying oxygen, replaced constantly. All of this demands a massive continuous supply of raw material.
Which brings up a really terrifying dilemma, actually. If I need this massive daily supply, like 300 grams worth of construction happening, what happens if I just eat jelly beans and potato chips for a week?
Well, the body has a huge problem then.
Right, because if the construction site is screaming for materials, but no delivery trucks are arriving with protein, what does the body do? Because there's no storage tank, right?
Exactly. This is a fundamental difference between protein and the other macronutrients. If you eat extra carbohydrates, your body stores them as glycogen in your liver and muscles.
And if you eat extra fat,
your body is incredibly efficient at storing it as adipose tissue around your waist for a rainy day.
oh yeah, we are all very intimately aware of the fat storage system.
Right. But protein is entirely different. There is no dedicated warehouse of amino acids waiting around in your body. There is no biological savings account for protein that you can just withdraw from when your diet is poor.
Wow. So the body resorts to cannibalism.
It has absolutely no other choice. The demand for those raw materials doesn't stop just because you stopped eating protein.
Because your heart still needs to beat.
Exactly. Your lungs still need to expand. Your
Yep.
immune system still has to fight off that subway virus. So the body looks inward. It engages in biological triage.
It starts dismantling its own internal structures just to harvest the building blocks it desperately needs.
Yes, and the primary, most accessible target, your skeletal muscle tissue.
Okay, hold on. You're saying my body will literally tear down my bicep or my quadricep to get the materials to build a microscopic digestive enzyme.
Yes, it will.
But that seems like an evolutionary design flaw. Why would it prioritize an enzyme over the muscle I might need to run away from a predator?
Because it operates on immediate minute-by-minute survival. You might need your bicep to fight a predator tomorrow. But if you don't synthesize the enzymes to run your cellular metabolism right now, you die in minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you don't synthesize the proteins that keep your blood pH balanced right now, you die. Survival functions, your heart, liver, lungs, brain chemistry, will always trump vanity or skeletal muscle.
That is intense.
If you don't supply the constant stream of protein through your diet, your body will literally eat its own muscles to keep the vital organs running.
Okay. That entirely reframes it. Protein isn't a gym thing. It is a non-negotiable survival requirement.
Exactly.
So if we are in constant need of this material, we need to understand what it actually is. Let's zoom in. If we put protein under a microscope, what are we looking at?
Well, the text uses a really brilliant analogy to help visualize this. The molecular necklace
Yes, I loved that part.
is the perfect way to picture it. Imagine a protein not as a single solid lump of clay, but as a long, intricate, beautiful necklace.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The necklace itself is the complete protein, but it is made up of individual beads strung together on a string.
And in biological terms, those individual beads are called amino acids.
Exactly. And the scale of these biological necklaces is wildly variable. A single protein necklace, like insulin, might be relatively short,
Like how short?
maybe 50 beads long. But a structural protein, like titin, which acts like a literal spring in your muscles, is a massive complex chain of over 30,000 individual beads.
30,000 beads in one chain. That's massive. But here is where the math gets genuinely beautiful to me.
Oh, the alphabet analogy.
Yes. Because to build all of these vastly different proteins in the human body, from the lenses of your eyes to the acid in your stomach, there are only 20 types of amino acids.
Just 20 distinct beads in the entire biological toolbox.
It sounds incredibly restrictive, but it is actually the basis of infinite complexity. It is exactly like an alphabet.
It really is. Think about the English alphabet. We have 26 letters.
Right, and with just those 26 letters, you can write millions of completely distinct words.
Exactly. You can write a grocery list, you can write the Declaration of Independence, you can write a Shakespearean sonnet. It's the exact same letters, just arranged in a different sequence.
And those 20 amino acids are the alphabet of life. By stringing those 20 beads together in specific sequences, your body creates tens of thousands of completely different proteins.
And each one has a highly specialized job.
But wait, a word on a page is just flat ink. A protein is a physical thing doing physical work. How does the sequence of beads dictate what the protein actually does?
That is where the magic of chemistry comes in. The sequence dictates the physical three-dimensional shape. And in biology, shape is everything. Shape is function.
Walk me through how the beads create this shape.
Well, these amino acids aren't identical. They have different chemical personalities. Some of the beads are hydrophilic, meaning they love water. Some are hydrophobic. They hate water and repel it, like oil. Some have a positive electrical charge. Some have a negative charge.
And your cells are mostly made of water, right?
Exactly. So imagine you string together 1,000 of these beads and drop the necklace into the watery environment of a cell. Instantly, the hydrophobic beads panic.
They try to hide from the water.
Yes, they burrow into the center of the chain. Meanwhile, the hydrophilic beads rush to the outside to touch the water.
And what about the charged ones?
The positively charged beads violently repel each other, while the positive and negative beads attract and stick together like magnets.
So the necklace essentially crumples and folds in on itself violently.
It crumples, but not randomly. Because of the specific sequence of those chemical personalities, it folds into a highly specific, mathematically precise, three-dimensional origami shape.
And that shape dictates its job.
Precisely. If it folds into the shape of a hollow tube, it might become a channel that lets calcium flow into a cell.
Or if it folds into the shape of a pair of scissors.
It becomes an enzyme that cuts other molecules apart. If it folds into the shape of a lock, it becomes a receptor on the outside of a cell waiting for a specific hormone key.
But that implies an incredible level of fragility. I mean, if the sequence has to be that perfect to fold correctly, what happens if I mess up just one bead?
It can be catastrophic.
Really? What if
Uh,
bead number 400 out of 10,000 is just the wrong letter?
If even one single amino acid is out of place, the positive and negative charges are wrong. The water-hating beads are in the wrong spot. The entire protein folds incorrectly.
And an incorrectly folded protein cannot do its job. Does that actually happen in real life?
All the time. In fact, the text notes that this is the root cause of many severe genetic diseases. Sickle cell anemia is a perfect example.
Oh, I've heard of that. How does it connect?
Well, the hemoglobin protein in your red blood cells, which carries oxygen, is made of almost 600 amino acids. In sickle cell anemia, exactly one of those amino acids is swapped for the wrong one.
Wait, just 1 out of 600?
One single typo in the DNA. That one wrong bead changes how the entire hemoglobin protein folds.
So it breaks the shape.
Yes. Instead of staying separated, the hemoglobin molecules stick together into rigid clumps, which distorts the red blood cell into a sickle shape.
And that causes immense pain and organ damage.
Exactly. That is the power and the danger of the 20-letter alphabet. The sequence has to be flawless.
That is absolutely astonishing. Okay, so we have this alphabet of 20 letters, but when we look at our daily diet, not all of these letters are created equal.
No, they are not.
Nutritional science divides these 20 amino acids into 2 distinct categories, essential and non-essential.
Right. And I always warn people that the naming convention here is terrible and causes a lot of confusion.
How so?
Because non-essential does not mean they aren't important. They are absolutely critical for life. It simply means it is not essential that you, actually eat them directly.
Oh, because my body can make them on its own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your liver is this brilliant chemical factory.
Mhm.
If you are missing some of these non-essential amino acids, your body can scavenge other molecules, break apart old cell components, and physically manufacture 11 of these amino acids entirely on its own.
Okay, so my internal factory can forge 11 of the 20 beads. But doing the math, that leaves 9.
And those are the 9 essential amino acids.
Yeah.
Your biological factory simply lacks the evolutionary machinery to build them.
So I have to eat them.
Yes, you physically cannot forge them from scratch, no matter how much energy or other material you have. The absolute only way those 9 essential beads enter your biological system is if you swallow them.
Let me bring in an analogy here, building on the alphabet idea from the text, because this really cemented the concept for me.
Go for it.
Think of it as the vowel problem. Imagine you are trying to write a sentence which represents building a protein, but I take away all the vowels. I take away A, E, I, O, and U.
Okay, let's call those the essential amino acids.
Right. And you are left with nothing but a giant pile of consonants, your non-essential amino acids.
You might have hundreds of consonants,
Ah.
a mountain of T's and R's and S's.
Exactly. But without the vowels, I cannot write a single functional sentence in the English language. Nothing works.
That's a perfect way to put it. The research makes this starkly clear. If you don't eat those 9 essential amino acids, it does not matter how many of the other 11 you have floating around.
Because your body simply cannot construct any of the proteins that require those missing pieces.
And since almost every single protein in your body requires at least some of those essential 9, the manufacturing line just grinds to a complete halt.
Which brings us perfectly to the incredible scope of what these proteins are actually doing. We've established that this vast alphabet is being built constantly. But when the average person hears the word protein, they just think of a guy doing bicep curls at the gym. The secret life of proteins in the body goes so far beyond muscle.
Oh, absolutely. The list of jobs is staggering. I mean, it reads like the infrastructure of a small city.
Let's walk through that master list systematically because it truly illustrates why protein is the bedrock of your health. Let's start with the classic one, structure.
Okay, the physical scaffolding. The proteins actin and myosin are the literal microscopic ratcheting cables inside your muscle fibers.
The ones that slide past each other to allow you to lift a cup of coffee.
Exactly. Or walk up a flight of stairs. But structural proteins are everywhere. Like, why doesn't your skin just tear when you pull on it?
Is that collagen?
Yes, collagen and elastin. They are proteins that form a flexible, incredibly strong mesh under your skin.
What about hair and nails?
That is almost pure keratin, which is a highly rigid structural protein. The tendons that act as the thick cables anchoring your muscles to your bones.
Also protein.
Yep. The ligaments lashing your skeleton together at the joints, all constructed from densely packed protein fibers.
Wow. So without structural proteins, your skeleton would collapse into a pile of loose bones, and your tissues would just dissolve into a puddle of water and fat.
A puddle of water and fat. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so that's the physical scaffolding. What else?
Then you have the enzymes. We touched on these earlier, but we need to emphasize how vital they are. Think of enzymes as biological scissors and welders.
Okay, scissors and welders.
In the chemistry of life, reactions are inherently very slow.
Yeah.
If you just put food in a bag of stomach acid without enzymes, it would take years to digest.
Years!
Literally years.
Uh,
Every single chemical reaction in your body requires a catalyst to speed it up by millions of times, so you don't die waiting for it to happen.
and enzymes are those catalysts.
Exactly. They are proteins folded into highly specific shapes that grab onto other molecules and either snap them apart or weld them together. They digest your food, they assemble new DNA strands when your skin heals.
They do everything.
They even neutralize the alcohol in your liver after a glass of wine. Without enzyme proteins, your entire metabolism stops dead in its tracks.
That is terrifying and amazing. Now, the next category completely threw me. Hormones.
Yeah, people rarely make that connection.
Right. I always thought of hormones as some entirely separate chemical category, like steroids or something. But the text points out that insulin is actually a protein.
It is. Insulin, the master hormone that regulates your entire blood sugar system, is a protein necklace folded into a very specific lock and key shape.
That blows my mind.
But it's not just insulin. Many of the hormones that dictate how you feel, how you sleep, and how you metabolize energy are derived directly from amino acids.
Give me another example.
Thyroid hormones. These are the chemicals released by your thyroid gland that act as the accelerator pedal for your entire body's metabolism. They determine how fast you burn calories.
And they are made of protein.
They are constructed using the amino acid tyrosine. If you are deficient in tyrosine, your thyroid physically cannot produce the hormone and your metabolism just plummets.
And what about mood? The text mentions serotonin, which everyone knows is the happy chemical.
Yes, serotonin is a neurotransmitter that profoundly influences your mood, your feelings of well-being, your digestion, and your sleep cycles.
Right.
And serotonin is manufactured directly inside your brain and gut from one specific essential amino acid, tryptophan.
Tryptophan, like the stuff in turkey that supposedly makes you sleepy.
Exactly that one. If your diet is chronically deficient in tryptophan, if you aren't eating that specific vowel, your body literally lacks the raw molecular materials to produce sufficient serotonin.
Wait, really? So what you eat physically tangibly alters the chemicals that dictate your emotional happipness.
Precisely. It's not just that eating a good meal makes you feel psychologically satisfied. It's a literal biochemical pipeline. You cannot out-therapy a neurochemical shortage. You need the building blocks.
That is profound. Okay, and the list continues, right? Immunity.
Yes, immunity. When you get exposed to a pathogen, your body fights back with antibodies. Antibodies are highly specialized proteins designed to act as heat-seeking missiles.
So they latch on to the foreign invaders like viruses or bacteria.
Exactly. They tag them so your white blood cells know to destroy them. If you don't have the amino acids to mass produce those antibodies, your defense system is completely blind and compromised.
And finally, transport. The logistics network of the body.
Right. How does the oxygen you breathe in your lungs get all the way down to a muscle cell in your toe? It hitches a ride on hemoglobin.
Which is a complex transport protein floating in your red blood cell.
Exactly. And how does cholesterol move through your watery bloodstream when we know that fat and water don't mix? The liver packages the fat inside a protein submarine called a lipoprotein.
Oh, like LDL and HDL, the good and bad cholesterol.
Exactly. The L stands for lipoprotein. Even maintaining the fluid balance so your blood vessels don't leak fluid into your tissues relies on a giant protein called albumin.
Okay, so proteins are the structural steel, the factory workers, the communication network, the military defense, and the public transit system of the human body.
That is an insane, comprehensive resume.
It really is. But the source text adds one final, almost cautionary note to this list. And it brings us all the way back to the energy conversation we had about carbs.
Ah, yes. Using protein for energy, the absolute last resort.
Yes. The math points out that technically, a gram of protein contains 4 calories of energy.
Right, which is exactly the same amount of potential energy as a gram of carbohydrate.
So on a spreadsheet, it could be fuel, but biologically, the body violently hates using it that way, doesn't it?
It is incredibly inefficient and incredibly destructive to the system.
The analogy I found in the text is so vivid. It says that burning protein for energy is like tearing apart your own living room furniture.
I love that metaphor.
It's like chopping up your antique dining table on your sofa and throwing them into the fireplace just to heat your house.
Yeah. Will burning your mahogany dining table generate heat? Yes, it will release energy. Will it keep your house warm for an hour? Yes.
But at what cost? You've completely destroyed a highly functional, incredibly valuable, irreplaceable piece of your environment just for a quick, cheap burst of heat.
Exactly. When your body is forced to burn amino acids for fuel, usually because you are starving or you haven't eaten enough carbs or fats to meet your energy demands, it has to perform a complex chemical teardown.
What does that look like chemically?
It has to strip the nitrogen molecule off the amino acid, process that nitrogen through the liver and kidneys, and then burn the remaining carbon skeleton. It works, you get the 4 calories, but you lose the lumber.
You lose the beads. You just incinerated the letters you desperately needed to build the enzymes and the antibodies.
Yes, and beyond just losing the material, as you noted, dealing with that nitrogen waste is hard work for the organs. It's a biological act of desperation. You never want your body burning the furniture.
Okay, so the takeaway here is crystal clear. We absolutely need to secure a steady daily supply of these 9 essential amino acids, the vowels, so our body can build its city and doesn't have to start burning the furniture.
That is the goal, yes.
Which brings us to the very practical, everyday question. What is the sourcing strategy? Where do we actually get these vowels when we walk into a grocery store?
This is where we have to look at the concept of complete versus incomplete proteins.
Okay, let's break that down.
Because when you look at the amino acid profiles of different foods, it becomes obvious very quickly that not all protein sources are created equal.
Let's start with the gold standard, complete proteins. What actually defines them?
A complete protein is a food source that contains all 9 of the essential amino acids. But it's not just about presence, it's about proportion. It contains them in adequate, balanced amounts that closely match what the human body actually needs to build human tissue.
So it has all the vowels in the right ratios to write any sentence the human body could ever want to write.
Exactly. And the vast majority of these perfectly balanced complete proteins come from animal sources: meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and eggs.
Because the biochemistry of animals is very similar to our own, right?
Right, so their protein structures provide exactly what we need. In fact, there is a fascinating historical and scientific detail about the common egg.
I loved this part. It turns out the humble chicken egg isn't just a cheap breakfast staple. It is literally the yardstick of biological science.
It is. When scientists first started analyzing the nutritional value of different foods, they found that the amino acid profile of an egg is so perfectly matched to human biological requirements.
So flawlessly balanced in its ratios of those 9 essentials.
That nutritional science literally designated the egg as the biological reference point. They use it to measure and score the quality of every other protein on Earth. It is the perfect 100 score.
It's like the platinum iridium cylinder locked in a vault in Paris that defines what a kilogram is, but for human nutrition.
That's a great comparison.
Okay, so animal products are complete. But what about plants? Are there any complete plant proteins?
There are a few, but they are the exception, not the rule. Soy is a complete protein, which is why tofu and tempeh are such powerful staples in vegetarian diets. Quinoa, the ancient grain, is also notably a complete protein.
But that implies that the vast majority of plant sources are not complete, which leads us to incomplete proteins. What exactly are they missing?
Most plant proteins are deficient, or remarkably low, in one or more of the essential amino acids. And the specific missing link depends on the plant family.
Give me some examples.
For example, legumes, which includes all your beans, lentils, chickpeas, and peanuts, are typically very low in an essential amino acid called methionine.
Okay.
On the other hand, cereals and grains like rice, wheat, corn, and oats are typically very low in a different essential amino acid called lysine.
So if you were a vegetarian and you only ate lentils all day, you'd have a massive shortage of methionine.
Yes, you would.
You'd have a giant pile of consonants, plenty of A's and E's, but almost zero U's. And as we established, without the U's, your protein manufacturing line stalls out.
Precisely. You would eventually develop malnutrition and muscle wasting, even if you were eating thousands of calories of lentils.
But there is a remarkably elegant solution to this problem, right? A combination hack that human civilizations have actually been using culturally for thousands of years, long before anyone knew what biochemistry was.
Ah, yes, the classic cultural food pairings. Nature basically provided the puzzle pieces.
How does it work?
Well, what the legume family is missing, methionine, the grain family possesses in abundance. And what the grain family lacks, lysine, the legume family provides heavily.
So if you combine them, their incomplete amino acid profiles interlock perfectly.
Exactly. It's culinary magic. Lentils paired with rice in India, chickpeas made into hummus and eaten with pita bread in the Middle East.
Black beans wrapped in corn tortillas in Mesoamerica, peanut butter on wheat bread.
Yes. By combining an incomplete legume with an incomplete grain, you create a meal that delivers a completely functional, 100% complete amino acid profile to your body, rivaling the quality of a steak.
Now here is where we need to dispel a massive myth, because this used to cause intense anxiety for anyone trying to eat more plant-based meals.
I know exactly what you're going to say, the complementary protein myth.
Yes. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was this intense pressure that you had to combine these incomplete proteins in the exact same bite of food, or at least in the exact same meal sitting, for the hack to work.
And it is completely outdated. Modern biochemistry has clarified a beautiful, highly efficient mechanism. Your body maintains an internal pool of free amino acids.
Wait, an internal pool, like a reservoir, how does that actually work in practice?
Think of it as a temporary staging area, primarily managed by your liver and circulating in your bloodstream. As your body digests various proteins throughout the day, it breaks them down into individual amino acids and drops them into this circulating pool.
Okay, so the beads are just floating around, waiting.
Exactly. When your cells need to build a new protein, say a skin cell or an enzyme, it draws the specific beads it needs from that pool.
Meaning I don't need to stress over mathematically balancing every single meal perfectly.
Not at all. Your body's much smarter than that. Let's say you eat a bowl of lentil soup at lunchtime. Your body digests it and deposits a huge rush of amino acids into the pool.
But because it's lentils, the pool is now a bit light on methionine.
Right. But your body doesn't panic, it just waits. If you then eat a bowl of rice or a piece of bread at dinner, 6 hours later, the rice digests and deposits its amino acids into the pool, which includes a massive dose of methionine.
It fills in the gap.
Exactly. The pool is now balanced. Your body does the math over the course of 24 to 48 hours. It combines the puzzle pieces retroactively.
So a vegetarian or even a strict vegan diet can absolutely provide all the building materials you need without hyper-obsessing over meal timing.
Absolutely. A well-planned plant-based diet works perfectly.
But the massive caveat there is well-planned. If the vegetarian diet consists solely of heavily processed foods, white pasta, plain toast, and cheese pizza, they will inevitably face severe amino acid deficiencies.
Yes, they need deliberate variety. Incorporating legumes, nuts, whole grains, and seeds throughout the day ensures that the circulating amino acid pool remains fully stocked with all 9 essential vowels.
Okay, so we know what to eat. We know we need the essential amino acids, and we know how to source them from both animals and plants.
Right.
But now we have to tackle the most fiercely debated, hotly contested question in the entire field of nutrition.
How much do you actually need to eat?
Yes, the numbers game.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I was digging into the text on this, it seems like the official public health guidelines have been heavily misleading people for decades.
Or at least the public has wildly misinterpreted what the guidelines mean. Misinterpreted is really the perfect word.
Okay, let's look at the official recommendation that is printed on almost every nutrition label and government website.
The standard, widely published minimum requirement is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
Okay, let's do the math on that to make it real. For an average adult weighing 70 kilos, which is about 154 pounds, that calculation comes out to 56 grams of protein a day.
Right.
To me, looking at food labels, 56 grams does not sound like very much food at all.
It isn't very much. And we have to look at the history of how scientists arrived at that 0.8 gram number to understand why it is so low and why it is dangerous to treat it as a goal.
Break that down for me. How did they come up with 0.8?
That figure was determined decades ago through something called nitrogen balance studies. Remember how we said amino acids contain nitrogen? And when protein is burned or degraded, the nitrogen is flushed out in your urine?
Right, the toxic smoke from the burning furniture.
Exactly. So researchers would put people in metabolic wards, basically locking them in a hospital room, and feed them exact, strictly measured amounts of protein.
Okay, and then what?
Then they would meticulously collect every drop of their urine, their feces, and even their sweat to measure exactly how much nitrogen was leaving the body.
Wow, science is glamorous.
Truly. But the logic was sound. If a person is excreting more nitrogen than they are eating, they are in negative balance, which means their body is actively cannibalizing its own muscle tissue to survive.
Oh, I see. And if the intake and the output match?
They are in balance, they aren't gaining muscle, but they aren't actively losing it either.
Okay, so they were essentially looking for the break-even point.
Precisely. They kept lowering the protein intake in these test subjects until they found the absolute bare minimum amount of protein required to keep a person from actively wasting away.
And they found that number was roughly around zero 0.8 grams per kilo.
Yes, but here is the massive flaw in how the public interprets this.
Yeah.
The subjects in these studies were completely sedentary.
Wait, really?
They were literally resting in hospital beds or sitting in chairs all day.
Wait, so the official government recommendation is basically just the survival floor for a couch potato.
Exactly.
It's the amount I need to eat just so my body doesn't start eating my own muscles while I lie in bed.
Yes, it is a floor, not an optimum. It is the minimum threshold to avoid clinical deterioration and malnutrition.
That is wild.
It is absolutely not the target for thriving, for building strength, for recovering from stress, or for maintaining a robust, fast metabolism as you age.
So treating zero 0.8 as a goal is a terrible idea.
It's like saying the minimum amount of water you need to not die of acute dehydration in the desert is 1 cup a day. That doesn't mean 1 cup a day is the optimal amount of water for a healthy life.
That is a massive paradigm shift. If zero 0.8 is just the don't die minimum, what does the modern data say the actual optimal targets should be?
The updated evidence-based targets are significantly higher. For the general population, just regular people who walk around, maybe have active jobs, and want to preserve their muscle mass as they age to avoid frailty, the target is between 1.2 and 1.6 grams per kilo.
So we are already basically doubling the minimum recommendation just for everyday health.
Yes. And if you are an active person, if you do any sort of intentional exercise, whether that is lifting weights, CrossFit, running, or cycling, the target jumps substantially to between 1.6 and 2.2 grams per kilo.
Why such a big jump for exercise?
Because exercise is, by definition, the intentional infliction of physical trauma on your body.
Right, you are intentionally creating micro tears in your muscle fibers.
Exactly, to force them to adapt and grow stronger. If you demand that your body rebuilds a stronger wall, you must supply the extra lumber to do it. If you exercise heavily on 0.8 grams of protein, you will just grind yourself down into a state of chronic injury and fatigue.
And there is a third category the text highlights, which I think is going to completely shock a lot of people: weight loss.
Ah, yes.
Because usually when people go on a diet, they just cut everything across the board, eat less food.
Yeah.
But the research says if you are in a caloric deficit trying to lose fat, protein becomes even more important.
It becomes absolutely critical, and it's the #1 mistake dieters make. Think about the biological signal you send when you diet.
Okay.
When you eat fewer calories than you burn, your body registers a state of mild starvation.
Yeah.
It's desperate for energy.
Right, so it will burn your stored body fat.
Yes, but muscle tissue is incredibly metabolically expensive to maintain. It costs calories just to keep muscle alive. So in a state of starvation, the body looks at your expensive muscle tissue and says, we can't afford this, tear it down and burn it for fuel.
So you lose weight on the scale, but you are losing the healthy muscle, not just the fat.
Exactly. You end up a smaller, weaker version of yourself with a completely destroyed metabolism.
So how do you prevent that?
You have to signal to your body, hey, I need this muscle, do not burn it. You do that through resistance training and by keeping your protein intake very, very high.
So what are the numbers there?
The data clearly shows you need at least 1.6 grams, often pushing toward 2.2 grams per kilo during a weight loss phase, just to protect your lean mass from being cannibalized.
Okay, let's ground all this math in reality for the listener. Let's take that same 70-kilo person from earlier.
Okay.
Instead of the 56-gram bare minimum, their optimal target for health, activity, or weight loss is now between 84 and roughly 112 grams of protein every single day. What does 100 grams of protein actually look like on a plate? How hard is it to hit?
Well, it's not mathematically difficult, but it requires conscious intention. You can't just happen upon it by accident. A fairly large 200-gram chicken breast, about the size of 2 decks of cards, provides about 46 grams of protein.
Okay, so a good-sized piece of chicken is almost half your daily target right there. That seems manageable.
Right. But then look at the smaller peripheral items people think of as high protein. 2 large eggs only give you about 12 grams. A standard single-serve cup of Greek yogurt is about 10 to 15 grams.
Wow, that's lower than I thought.
Yeah. A hearty 1-cup serving of cooked lentils will give you roughly 18 grams. A handful of almonds, which people always tout as a protein snack, is only about 6 grams.
So if you plan it out, 2 eggs and some toast for breakfast is maybe 15 grams. A big bowl of lentil soup for lunch is 18 grams. A chicken breast for dinner is 46 grams.
You are right around 79 grams.
Add a Greek yogurt as an afternoon snack, and you hit 89 or 90 grams. You are comfortably in the optimal zone.
Exactly. The practical reality is that hitting these optimal numbers is quite easy if every single meal is deliberately constructed around a protein source.
If you look at an empty plate and ask where is the protein before you add anything else, you will hit the target.
Yes. But, and this is where I think most people fall off the cliff, it is astonishingly easy to fail if you eat the way the modern Western diet is structured.
Right. If your morning revolves around a bagel or cereal, your lunch is a big plate of pasta with marinara sauce, and your dinner is a stir-fry that is 90% rice and vegetables with 3 tiny slivers of beef. You aren't even coming close.
You might hit 30 or 40 grams for the entire day.
And if you eat like that consistently, you are leaving your body entirely starved for building materials, forcing it to cannibalize itself, even if you are eating 3,000 calories a day and gaining weight.
Exactly.
Now, we mentioned weight loss a moment ago, and that brings up a crucial question about hunger. Because everyone who has ever tried to diet knows the sheer agony of white-knuckling through afternoon cravings.
Oh yeah, the hunger is brutal.
But the text points to one of protein's most powerful, practical superpowers. Its ability to completely kill your appetite.
The biology of satiety is fascinating, and it is arguably the most powerful tool in the nutritional arsenal.
I want to dig deep into this because this isn't just a psychological trick of feeling full. There are hard, measurable biochemical reasons why eating a chicken breast fills you up significantly more, and for much longer, than eating the exact same number of calories in potato chips.
There are. Satiety, the feeling of being full and satisfied, is a complex physiological mechanism, and protein triggers it through 3 distinct pillars.
Okay, let's examine the first one, the thermic effect of food, or TTE.
Right.
Thermogenesis. It sounds like the name of a sketchy, fat-burning supplement from a late-night infomercial, but it's actually just the biological cost of digestion, right?
Yes, exactly. Remember earlier when we talked about how proteins are incredibly long, complex necklaces folded into tight origami shapes, and how the individual amino acid beads are locked together?
Yeah, you called the locks peptide bonds.
Right, and they are very strong chemical bonds.
Yeah.
Digesting carbohydrates, especially refined ones, is incredibly easy for the body. They just dissolve.
But protein is different.
Digesting a complex protein structure is hard, exhausting biochemical work. Your stomach acid has to denature the protein, basically uncrumple the origami shape. Then, specialized enzymes called proteases have to come in and forcefully break those strong peptide bonds, snipping the necklace into individual beads.
And doing physical chemical work requires energy.
Exactly. It requires a massive amount of ATP, your cellular energy currency. The data shows that it literally costs your body energy to digest protein. Between 20% and 30% of the calories contained in the protein itself are burned up simply processing it.
Wait, pause there. So if I eat 100 calories of pure protein, say egg whites, my body has to spend 20 to 30 of those calories just dealing with the administrative paperwork of digesting it. I only net 70 or 80 calories.
That is precisely what the thermic effect means. Your body is working so hard that it generates internal heat, hence thermogenesis. And this intense metabolic effort signals to your central nervous system that your digestive tract is actively heavily occupied.
Wow. The body registers that it is working on a major project, so it doesn't ask for more food.
Exactly. It's a built-in caloric discount.
That is incredible. So what is the second pillar of satiety?
Pure physical mechanics. Slow gastric emptying. Because protein requires so much unraveling, acid bathing, and enzymatic snipping, it physically remains in your stomach significantly longer than carbohydrates do.
And how does the physical presence stop hunger?
Your stomach wall is lined with stretch receptors. When your stomach is physically distended and occupied by matter for a long time, those receptors send a continuous signal up the vagus nerve to your brainstem saying, "We are physically full down here, there is no room, do not send more food."
So it's a literal structural roadblock in the stomach.
Exactly. And that delayed emptying leads directly into the third and arguably most powerful pillar, hormonal warfare.
Hormonal warfare. I love that phrasing. What is happening chemically in the gut?
When the heavily processed protein finally starts slowly exiting the stomach and entering the small intestine, it hits specialized cells that act as chemical sensors. When these cells detect amino acids, they trigger a massive release of a suite of satiety hormones into your bloodstream.
Okay, what are the major players there?
The main ones are peptide YY, or PYY, cholecystokinin, or CCK, and GLP-1.
Hold on, GLP-1, that is the exact same hormone that all those revolutionary, wildly expensive new weight loss injections are targeting, right? Drugs like Ozempic or Wegovy, they artificially blast your brain with the GLP-1 to kill your appetite.
That is exactly what they do. They are synthetic GLP-1 receptor agonists. But eating a high-protein meal triggers your body to release its own natural GLP-1.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you don't need to memorize the acronyms, but you need to understand their function. These hormones travel directly to the hypothalamus in your brain and scream, "I am deeply nourished, shut off the desire to eat."
So it raises the stop eating signals.
And it does the exact opposite to the start eating signals. Simultaneously, while protein raises GLP-1 and PYY, it aggressively crushes the secretion of ghrelin in the stomach.
Ghrelin is the bad guy here, the gremlin.
Ghrelin is the primary hunger hormone. It's the chemical that makes your stomach literally growl, makes you irritable, and makes you crave high-calorie foods. Protein shuts down ghrelin production more effectively and for a longer duration than any other macronutrient.
So what is the grand takeaway for the listener here? It makes the whole concept of dieting incredibly practical. If you eat enough protein, you aren't just giving your body building materials.
You are actually hacking your own neurochemistry to make eating less easy.
Exactly. You can eat fewer total calories overall without feeling deprived, without the agonizing white knuckling, without the suffering.
Because your body simply stops asking for food. You aren't fighting your biology with pure willpower anymore. You have enlisted your hormonal system to help you.
Okay. To fully close the loop on the biology of protein, we have to look at what happens when this entire system is pushed to its absolute limits.
Right, we need to explore the extremes: deficiency and excess.
Let's start with deficiency, because while acute protein starvation is rare in the developed world, chronic, low-level deficiency is remarkably common, especially in older populations or people trapped in endless cycles of bad crash diets.
Yeah, it really is a silent problem.
What are the grim, observable effects if you chronically undereat protein? Like if you were living on that 0.5 or 0.6 gram range?
Well, based on the construction site metaphor we've built, you can probably predict them. First, relentless muscle loss. Sarcopenia.
Your body cannibalizes the muscle for parts.
Exactly. This leads to profound physical weakness, a much higher risk of falls and broken bones as you age, and a plummeting basal metabolic rate, meaning you get fatter even while eating very little.
And the repair system's shut down, right?
Yes, slow wound healing. You don't have the materials to synthesize collagen or new tissue, so a simple cut takes weeks to close. And if you do try to work out, your recovery takes days longer than it should because you can't repair the micro tears.
I imagine the immune system takes a massive hit, too.
Absolutely. Without the amino acids to rapidly mass-produce antibodies, you are constantly catching colds, fighting low-level infections, and taking much longer to recover from illnesses.
And aesthetically.
Your hair thins out, your skin loses elasticity and ages rapidly, and your nails become brittle and ridged.
Because, as we established, the body is prioritizing survival over looking good.
Exactly. The body views hair and fingernails as a biological luxury. If it is short on methionine or lysine, it isn't going to waste those precious resources on your split ends. It's going to redirect them to keep your heart beating and your liver functioning.
But here is the aha moment from the text that completely reframed obesity and the modern junk food epidemic for me. It introduces a concept called the protein leverage hypothesis.
Oh, this is one of the most fascinating and compelling theories in modern nutritional science and evolutionary biology.
Explain this, because it absolutely blew my mind when I realized what it implies.
The protein leverage hypothesis, developed by studying animals ranging from locusts to mice to primates, suggests that humans have a very specific, hardwired evolutionary target for protein intake every day.
Okay, so the body knows it needs those 300 grams of turnover materials. It knows it needs the essential amino acids to survive.
Yes, it has a quota it is trying to hit. Now imagine you eat a diet that is heavily ultra-processed. A diet filled with potato chips, donuts, soda, and fast food fries.
Which is sadly how a lot of people eat.
Right. These foods are hyper-palatable, packed with massive amounts of carbohydrates and fats for energy, but they are almost entirely devoid of protein.
So what happens? Say you eat 1,000 calories of chips.
You eat 1,000 calories of chips, but because there was no protein, those powerful satiety hormones we just talked about, GLP-1, PYY, never get triggered.
And the ghrelin never gets shut off.
Exactly. Your brain senses the massive influx of energy, but it scans the blood and realizes, wait, where are the essential amino acids? We can't build anything with this.
So it pushes you to keep eating.
Yes. It leverages your hunger. It forces you to keep gorging on endless amounts of food, desperately searching the environment for those missing protein building blocks.
The body is basically screaming, great energy delivery, but where is the lumber? We need lumber. Keep eating until you find some.
Yes, your body forces you into massive, thousands of calories overconsumption simply to hit its required, hardwired protein target. The tragedy of the modern diet is that by diluting our food supply with cheap carbs and fats, we have to eat massive amounts of excess calories just to get the baseline protein we need.
Wow. But if you had just eaten a chicken breast or a massive bowl of lentils first,
The protein quota would be met, the hunger hormones would shut off, and you would naturally stop eating thousands of calories earlier.
that is profound. It completely changes how we view junk food binges. It's not just a lack of willpower, it's your body desperately hunting for amino acids in a barren food landscape. Okay, let's flip the extreme entirely. What about eating too much protein? Because I know every single listener has heard the exact same warning from their aunt or a daytime talk show.
Let me guess. The kidneys.
Yes. I want to push back on the high protein targets we discussed. Doesn't eating a high protein diet absolutely destroy your kidneys?
It is the single most persistent, unkillable zombie myth in all of nutrition. And the clinical data firmly, unequivocally, and repeatedly debunks it.
So my kidneys aren't going to explode if I eat 150 grams of protein.
No, they are not. The research states clearly that in healthy individuals with normal functioning kidneys, consuming high levels of protein, even up to 2.5 or 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, causes absolutely zero kidney damage.
That's an astronomically high amount of protein, way over the optimal targets. Where did this myth even come from?
It stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of medical treatment. People with pre-existing severe kidney disease, where their kidneys are already failing, are often put on low-protein diets by their doctors.
Why is that?
Because, as we discussed, digesting protein creates nitrogen waste, which is urea. If your kidney filters, the nephrons, are already broken and dying, they cannot handle the workload of filtering that urea, and it builds up in the blood. So, doctors reduce protein to ease the burden on the failing organ.
Okay, that makes complete sense for sick people.
Right. But applying that logic to healthy people is entirely backwards.
Huh.
It is exactly like saying, running is bad for a broken leg, therefore healthy people shouldn't run because it will break their legs.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy. It's absurd.
Exactly. Healthy kidneys are perfectly, exquisitely designed by millions of years of evolution to adapt to the nitrogen filtration required by high protein intake. The nephrons just upregulate their filtration rate. They handle the load effortlessly.
Okay, kidney myth definitively busted. But that raises a mechanical question. If I eat 300 grams of protein a day, which is way, way more than my daily construction quota requires, and I know from earlier that the body has no storage warehouse for extra amino acids, where does the excess actually go?
It's a great question. Since it can't be stored as a long protein necklace for later use, the body has to deal with the excess immediately. It engages in a process called deamination. The liver takes the excess amino acids and chemically shears them in half.
Okay, into what parts?
First, it strips off the nitrogen component, the part that makes amino acids unique. The liver converts that toxic nitrogen or ammonia into a relatively harmless, water-soluble substance called urea. It sends the urea to your perfectly healthy kidneys, and you literally pee the excess nitrogen away down the toilet.
Okay, so the unique part is flushed. What about the rest of the molecule, the carbon part?
Once the nitrogen is gone, the remaining part of the amino acid is basically just a carbon skeleton. At that point, chemically, it looks an awful lot like a carbohydrate. The body will either use it immediately for energy, or through a process called gluconeogenesis, it will convert that carbon skeleton into glucose and eventually store it as fat if you are in a caloric surplus.
So excess protein can make you fat eventually if your total calories for the day are just too high.
Yes, the laws of thermodynamics still apply. Calories still matter. But here is the crucial reality check note about excess protein. Eating massive amounts of extra protein does not magically build extra muscle.
Wait, you're saying I can't just eat 5 steaks a day, sit on the couch playing video games, and wake up looking like an Olympian?
I am sorry to crush your dreams, but no. Think back to the construction site. Providing 10,000 extra bricks to a construction site doesn't mean a mansion gets built automatically.
It just means you have a pile of unused bricks lying around.
Exactly. To build a bigger house, you need the architectural blueprints, the workers, and the demand to build.
And what provides that demand in the body?
The stimulus of progressive resistance training, lifting heavy things. The exercise provides the stress and the biological signal that says, we need a bigger muscle to handle this load.
Ah, so the exercise creates the demand, the protein simply provides the supply.
Exactly. Excess supply without demand just gets its nitrogen stripped off, flushed down the toilet, and the rest stored as expensive body fat.
This has been an incredibly enlightening journey. We started with the simplistic idea of food as just a caloric accounting ledger, just fuel in a gas tank.
And we've completely reconstructed that view.
We really have. We now understand that there is a massive, relentless construction site inside of us, destroying and rebuilding 300 grams of our own tissue daily.
We've looked at the beautiful 20-letter alphabet of amino acids, the desperate biological need for those 9 essential vowels, and how to source them efficiently from eggs, meat, or clever plant combinations, using the body's internal amino acid pool.
And we've seen how protein acts as the structural scaffolding, the enzymatic scissors, the military defense, and the hormonal messengers of life. Plus, we learned how manipulating that intake can literally turn off our hunger through the thermal effect and hormonal warfare while busting the myths about kidney damage.
It is a totally different, vastly more empowering way to look at a plate of food.
It really is. And to close out this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. Something directly inspired by the biological realities we've uncovered today from the source text.
The architectural reality of who you are.
Exactly. If your body is literally dismantling 300 grams of its own tissue every single day, if it is actively tearing down your skin, your heart muscle, the enzymes digesting your food, the very serotonin regulating your mood and happiness,
Right.
and then rebuilding them entirely from scratch using the raw materials of your most recent meals, then on a very real, measurable, molecular level, you are not the same physical person you were a few months ago.
You are quite literally what you eat.
You are an ongoing daily architectural project. So the next time you sit down to eat, before you take a bite, ask yourself, what kind of house are you choosing to build today?
It's a powerful question to carry with you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring the science behind your daily life and stay curious.